We all go to the supermarket. I hate to say it, damn it, I do once a fortnight. I hate it, but I go because it's where we buy most of the stuff that keeps us going. It is our store, our general store these days, the supermarket, isn't it? But increasing concerns about supermarkets and their pricing and promotion strategies. And also the fact we only have two, basically, large supermarket groups in New Zealand, and they're accused often of running a duopoly, of particularly screwing those who supply goods and services to them because they are so market dominant, and always talk about introducing new players into the supermarket industry. It's wildly, wildly profitable because, of course, you are selling things that people need, and you're selling them in bulk, and you're making hundreds, millions of transactions a day. So incredibly profitable, the supermarket game. But increasingly questions have been asked about whether or not our supermarkets are acting ethically, and particularly in terms of discounts and buying cards, etc. There's been real concern and some concern too about anti-competitive practices, to the point where this government has appointed a guy, Pierre van Heerden, as a special supermarket watchdog. And I always think when special watchdogs are appointed, it means our laws must be inadequate. But why do you appoint someone special to look at a sector if you don't have adequate laws where the existing authorities can deal with that sector? So is a supermarket watchdog going to make it harder for you to be fleeced at the supermarket or be ripped off? And it's amazing the number of people I talk to, and I guess it's because we all go to the supermarket, who feel pretty strongly about this issue. With one organisation that has been keeping an eye on the supermarkets is Consumer New Zealand. And their head, their boss or CEO, Jon Duffy, joins us on the line now. Jon, good morning. Welcome to the platform. Nice to have you with us.
Good morning, Sean.
All right. Look, first up, and you guys take consumer complaints, right? How much are people concerned or feeling ripped off by supermarkets? I've seen some figures of hundreds of complaints to you guys.
Yes, that's right. It's the single biggest issue that we get, closely followed by complaints about airline refunds. But supermarket pricing errors and misleading promotional activity are the biggest complaint by a long way.
Okay, which in some ways, given the number of transactions and how the vast majority of us have to use supermarkets, that's not kind of surprising, is it?
Not particularly, and also, let's be fair, we have put the call out for people to come to us and give us their evidence. So we've been proactive on this because we want to give the Commerce Commission, with its new functions, a baseline look at the concerns that consumers have and the types of complaints the types of activity that they're worried about.
Okay, so 600 complaints roughly. What are most of them about? What is the single biggest complaint about supermarkets?
I think the biggest group, the price I was charged at the till was different to what it said the product cost on the shelf. And
gosh, I never even checked that, to be honest, Jon.
Well, so many people don't, and it's actually the vigilant people. When the mistake is so big that your eyes, your attention is drawn to it. So you're quite right. Busy people don't have the time, and they shouldn't be put to the effort of getting their receipt, checking their receipt, trying to play the memory game and remember exactly what how many items you got in your trolley, 50 to 100. What all of those items cost at the shelf, and checking them against the till. It's pretty impossible. So
okay.
The supermarkets will be getting away with a lot more than the complaints we have received represent. Okay,
but that is the biggest single complaint, that the shelf says on special this. You go to the checkout, you don't get that discount, or you get charged a higher price.
That's right.
Okay. Which is a crime?
So that's one. Pardon?
That's a crime, isn't it? Well, that's a breach.
Well, that's yes, breach of the Fair Trading Act, misrepresentation as to the price of the goods, 13G of the Fair Trading Act, and that is, yes, you could be prosecuted criminally for that.
Okay.
And indeed, supermarkets have been before.
Okay. Why aren't they now?
Well, to be honest with you, the the frequency with which these offences occur means that the Commerce Commission could devote all of its resource 24 hours a day to just looking at this type of offending and still not be able to prosecute it all. And you have to get to a point where you go, well, is prosecution even the right enforcement action here? Because actually the fines that, the last time Pack and Save Mangere was the last supermarket that was prosecuted, there was a $70,000 fine. And, that might not be even an hour's operating profit for that supermarket. So it's very...
As I said in my intro, they're vastly profitable businesses. That is a drop in the ocean. Could I ask you then, in your opinion, does a supermarket watchdog make it any more likely that supermarkets will stop doing this? And you're painting for me a picture where enforcement is nearly impossible.
Well, what the new functions the Commission have, so you mentioned in your intro that maybe our laws are inadequate. I think coming out of the Commerce Commission's market study, the government has passed, it is in the process of passing new legislation, so it is toughening up the rules that relate to supermarkets. So I think there is a recognition that you're right, the existing laws, particularly the laws that allowed this merger in the first place. I mean, let's track this right back to its origin. 20 years ago, Foodtown was allowed to be gobbled up by Progressives, which was the precursor to what we now know as Woolworths, which is the Countdown brands.
Yeah.
And that moved us from 3 to 2 in the industry.
Yeah.
We'd gone from many more than that. So there'd been a series of mergers over the years that consolidated the market right up. So firstly, our merger laws, which have subsequently been changed, allowed that to happen in the first place, which was a mistake and widely accepted as a mistake. 20 years later, we've got an entrenched duopoly that basically is allowed to get away with what it wants. So the government has come in off the back of the Commerce Commission's market study and said, all right, first things first, we need to understand what's going on here. The market study has given us a snapshot. We need ongoing monitoring to see what's happening kind of in real time in the supermarket sector, and that's going to be the primary role of this watchdog. All the pricing errors and the misleading promotions and all that kind of stuff, that will still go to the Commission's existing fair trading team.
And they'll do nothing, as you've suggested, or won't be in a position because of the volume to do much about it?
Or they'll take tactical enforcement action as the right cases crop up. And that's kind of the body of evidence that we're giving them now. There's some absolute gems within those 600 complaints that could easily form the basis of a prosecution. So that they'll have that evidence in front of them. But in terms of the monitoring role, that's designed to look at the underlying conditions in the market and create the preconditions for more competition to occur. Now, there is debate over whether the settings are right and whether this will actually happen or whether it's a pipe dream. And we can have that discussion. But the rationale that sits in behind these moves is that the watchdog can make sure suppliers are being treated fairly, jump on activity that's not benefiting consumers, and make the market more appealing to a new entrant.
All right, and this is interesting because in that case, I'm not sure that watchdog is the right, if you like, moniker for this new position that Pierre Van Heerden is taking up. It's almost, he's going to review the industry.
Yeah, and that's kind of what happens with the Telco Commissioner currently. Yeah. Is an identical structure to what's been created here and has had good results in the telecommunications.
What do you think of Pierre himself as a person? Is he the right person? I know he's been involved in the industry for a while.
Yeah, I don't know the chap, and I've been asked that a couple of times by media outlets, looking at his CV, is he too close to industry? I think actually there's a real advantage of having someone who's had the chance to look under the hood, because there's without going into too much detail, there's some pretty rough and tumble activity in this industry. Yeah. From what we hear from suppliers, there's NDAs everywhere. So having someone who's been in there, got their hands
and he's certainly done that. He's got long experience in the food and grocery industry. And I think probably from my assessment, John, is more, and I guess this is the other thing about this industry, I know a lot of people who supply supermarkets, right, manufacturers and make food and stuff like that, say we're constantly ripped off by these guys. It isn't just the person with the supermarket trolley who's feeling hard done by this duopoly.
No, that's quite right. The duopoly sits in between suppliers, the people who make and grow our food, and us. And from what we hear and what the market study concluded, actually, the only places that are profiting out of that supply chain are the supermarkets. So anything we can do to redistribute those profits, either in helping suppliers earn a decent living or getting cheaper prices for consumers, is a good thing.
All right. So this is more than a watchdog. This might be the beginning of some real fundamental change in the industry.
Yeah, this is kind of the surface level of quite wide sweeping reforms that could ultimately, if the monitoring works well, come out and say, actually, the reforms that have been proposed by the government off the back of the market study, they're not good enough. We need to go further. And that could lead to things like, the big ominous idea of structural separation or divestment or things like that. Because after a period of monitoring, if there are no new entrants, you have to say, well, are the market settings wrong? Because the profits are there to be made.
Yeah. Jon, meantime, you are the people that most often people go to make complaints about consumer issues. If you want to make a complaint about the way you've been treated at the supermarket or a price differential you don't think's right, how do people get in contact with you guys? And I'm sorry to drum up business for you, but there you go.
No, look, we appreciate it. Look, get in touch with us at info@consumer.org.nz and we'll make sure your email complaint gets to the right place. There's also a form on our website, so if you go to consumer.org.nz, there's a pre-formatted complaint form there that gets you to give us all the information we need to pass on to the Commerce Commission so they've got a sound basis to make it.
And as you said, the most complained about sector in New Zealand for consumers, the supermarket.
That we receive at Consumer NZ, yes.
Wow. Jon, I thank you so much for your time. I feel like I know more about the subject, which is always the point of doing an interview. I trust you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Sean.
Cheers. Jon Duffy, Chief Executive of Consumer New Zealand. Ooh. Interesting. The game's afoot. We're going to get, I hope, Pierre Van Heerden on. I know Pierre. I bumped into a few times in the course of my professional life and stuff. He's a good bloke. Jesse says supermarkets, the modern day robber barons. Yeah. Sean, the excess supermarket profits, whatever that means, of $1 million a day is 16 cents per day for every Kiwi. The increase in taxes this government has imposed is $14 per day for every Kiwi. We need a taxation watchdog, not a supermarket one, says Alex in Wellington. And of course, your tax dollar is going to the full page ad for some program about something with a couple of people, I presume Maori television presenters, trying to look as white and as European as possible. Strange.